Greetings, Jeremy Sutton here from PrecisionPrinciple.com on day 25 of the intensive Ashtanga Yoga training. Here we are in Makloganj, India. It's a stormy, windy day. You might be able to hear the wind coming under the door, but you're not going to hear me complain. It's pretty beautiful out here. Today, I would like to talk about getting in the zone. Now, this is a topic you'll certainly hear me here talk about a lot more in the future if you choose to subscribe to these videos, especially once I get to Niigata, Japan in the coming months. We're going to have time to explore these topics in a bit more depth. But today, I'd like to share a story from our teaching experience, and just kind of shows the power of a practice where you can get in the zone, where you can put yourself in the state of mind that you need to get the job done. So now, at this point, we are doing both practice and corrections for other students. So in the early mornings, I'll do my own practice, and then right after that, I will be doing corrections for the other students. Today, we are waiting for Vijay to come to the second class. He took a quick break and he came back down, and he was a few minutes late, as will happen from time to time. And so we're all sitting waiting in studio for him, all the students, some of us in the teacher training, but more people who are just doing drop-in classes who come by. And he came into the room and he's a little bit rushed. He comes in, he gets back to the front of the room, gets his mat out, he gets everything going. And I'm sitting in the back, and as I'm not practicing at this point, thinking, oh, he looks a little bit rushed, he looks a little bit scattered. I wonder what's going to happen. So he sits down. He sits up, gets his mat out. He sits down on the mat and then immediately takes posture. Now at the beginning of the practice, he begins by doing some brief chanting, and just less than a couple minutes at most, and by repeating the same teaching that he says every day, something like, become a better human being, God is one, it's love if you believe in it, this world is not for fighting, this life is for helping, it's for compassion, it's for becoming brothers, it's for overcoming anything that separates human unity. That's the essence of what he says before every single practice. Before that, he does a little chanting. Now, I was imagining, as he came into the class, oh, he's going to be rushed today. Look how scattered he looks. Look how he looks like he's a little bit frazzled. He comes in, he sits down, he does his in lotus position, and he starts doing his chanting. Bottom. He does this about 8-9 times in a row. And you can see him just in the course of just a minute and a half. And because I'm not doing the meditation, I'm sitting in the back waiting for corrections, and I'm just watching him. And you can see him, you can see the feel of his physiology just drop into the zone. You know, he's, for me, if I'm late for something, I tend to come in and then I tend to rush everything else. I think that's not too uncommon. You know, we feel late, we feel rushed, we get this rushed feeling in our mind. It's more of a psychological rush than it is necessarily any external pressures that are actually causing this rush, right? I mean, does feeling rushed happen anywhere but within our own minds? So, you know, maybe for me, I would expect me sometimes to accelerate through the practice. But as soon as he got into that zone, he did those little chants, he repeated his teaching, and then let's get started. And all of a sudden, he was just a completely different character. He was in the zone. He was on point for the next 2 hours throughout the practice, just exactly doing what he needed to be, because that's what the moment called for it. And not trying to rush through it, not trying to get through it quickly, because while he's in the practice, the most important thing is simply to do that practice. We're all here. This is what we're here to do. Everyone here wants to learn. Everybody here wants to practice. So it would be, sure, maybe it was a little mistake to show up late, but it would be a more egregious error to now rush the practice now that we've arrived. And so in some way, this reminds me of the idea of keeping important things as important things, and especially not making unimportant things important things, right? So in this sense, we're talking about, you know, the brief few moments that he came in late. You know, these are the unimportant things. It would be a much bigger mistake to then rush the practice, because that would be making time the less important thing. It would be elevating its status to the more important thing. But the most important thing that we have right here in this moment is simply to transmit the practice, to facilitate practice in others, and to help others learn as much as they can from the window that we have. I'm not saying that time is not valuable. Of course it's valuable. I mean, that's the point. It's so valuable that why should we rush this practice, which is one of the most valuable things we can do for our own health and well-being? Why would I rush this practice and make it in any shorter period of time? And as they say, don't commit two mistakes when you can just save it to one, right? And so what really struck me today was just the fact how he could come in clearly a little bit scattered and then in less than a few minutes just drop into calmness, drop into complete focus and awareness, being in the zone, being present throughout the remainder of the class. Now, how can we facilitate these experiences in ourselves as well? Now, if you're interested in facilitating the ability to drop into the zone as frequently as possible, whenever you need to, at a moment's notice, I would highly recommend to check out precisionprinciple.com, where you will find 12 strategies to up your game, 12 strategies to up your creativity and your productivity. This is a 12-point checklist about different ways that we can use both our own practice, the environment, different techniques and ways to focus so that we can drop into the zone whenever we need it. Probably the most effective way to make this happen is what VJ is doing here, and that is simply decades of dedicated practice. It's probably not a stretch to say that he's done this chant hundreds of, tens of thousands of times, almost undoubtedly. He does it every single day for the students while they're practicing, and it's probably what he has been doing for his own practice for just years on end. So in essence, what that means is he's coming to this class, and then he sits down into this meditation, and then he does this chanting, and that kind of chanting is like, oh, and all of a sudden that sound, when he does it, 7, 8, 10 times in a row, starts to be an impetus to start to, an anchor to drop him into the zone, to put him into the state of mind that he needs to be to make things happen with greatest efficiency, greatest productivity, and yeah, the best way to do that is clearly to simply practice something for so long that basically when you get to that point, when you get to your area, when you get to the place where you practice, when you sit down in the chair where you work, where you do maybe you have a little ritual before you do something. For example, a lot of artists, many artists, have creative rituals that they'll do before they actually start to work. Stephen Pressfield talks about this in his book, The War of Art, and that's a great book, not just for artists, but for anybody who's interested in kind of elevating their life to a higher level, to live up to their highest standards. This book is amazing because he talks about the things that kind of get us out of the zone. Now, Pressfield in his book is actually talking about ways to invoke the muses, right? Now, the muses were, I think either deities or semi-deities that in the Greek tradition, and they were the nine sort of, muses for the different styles of creativity. For poetry, for music, for writing, for drawing, for all these different types of creativity, you have a specific muse, and when you had that creative inspiration, how that feeling of creative inspiration, the Greeks would explain by this muse would blessed you for the time being, right? That you didn't create it yourself, you were simply a vehicle for which this muse came through you, and this resulting, you were essential to the process, but it not necessarily the cause, it kind of came through you to produce this ultimate masterpiece, we'll say. Well, Stephen Pressfield has basically a prayer that he uses to invoke the muses even today. I think he understands them as, it's debatable. He talks about angels, and he talks about the invisible forces that sort of guide this creative endeavor, that you can't really know when inspiration is going to strike, but what you can do is refine the skills and sort of be waiting by the door for the muses to knock, so when that inspiration comes in, you can just be like, oh, what's that? Bam, caught it immediately in the moment that it hit, so you didn't let it go. On a similar note, there is another Greek term called kairos. Kairos is sort of the specific essence of this moment. That is, if I'm doing anything, that could be a creative endeavor such as writing, it could be drawing, it could be giving a speech, it could be something physical like doing exercise, it could be work, creating a business proposal. The point is that regardless of what I'm doing, every moment is a unique moment for doing that thing. That is, today is a unique day. If I write what's on my mind today, it's going to be different than if I write tomorrow. That is, because of the events that have happened to me today, if I write today, it's going to be different than if I write tomorrow for twice as long. No amount of time writing tomorrow is ever going to make up for the time that I missed today, right? No amount of, if I skip a practice today, my yoga practice today, my music practice today, whatever is going to have come as a result of that is going to be at least partially influenced by the kairos of the moment, by the essence of this moment. And so the point is that we can kind of ride out the kairos of every day, and if we have practiced like VJ has, we can sort of get into the zone, and this is sort of the idea of like waiting ready by the door for when the muses strike. You know, yoga is a little bit different than, of course, creative inspiration, but nevertheless, I can personally see how this applies to yoga in the sense that when I'm healthy, I can make a lot of gains in one day. I can really get in deep into the poses. I can really kind of push myself. I can try those jump throughs a little bit harder. I can really get my abs working hard because my abs feel fresh, my body feels strong, I feel really good. Meanwhile, on other days, maybe I'm not feeling so hot. You know, now I've been working hard all week, so now my body's a little bit down. So the kairos of that moment is going to be different than the kairos of a moment when I have feeling fresh, right? And so, furthermore, if we have this ability to drop into the zone, then this is going to basically, it's going to be an exponential multiplier on our ability to be efficient in our practice, to gain results from this practice. If I can drop into the zone, then whatever the kairos of the moment is, I'm going to be able to take greatest advantage of that for the benefits of this cause. And this doesn't have to be for my own personal gain. I mean, we might be talking about you might talk about the way that you could benefit the most people in the external reality. You know, for example, you might say Martin Luther King certainly took advantage of the kairos of the era, and he worked day in, day out. Every day was a unique opportunity to sort of leverage the fervor and the feeling that was so prevalent at the time. He leveraged that kairos to actually create something that was lasting change. So the point is that it's not necessarily about taking advantage of the moment simply for yourself. It's like leveraging the moment to do whatever it is that you're trying to do as efficiently and productively as possible, right? And that includes, by the way, even if your goal is to do nothing, right? What if my goal is just to meditate? I just want to sit and focus on my breath. Well, some moments are better than others. If I look around, my present surroundings is actually quite an excellent kairos for enjoying a meditation and actually reaping excellent benefits. I have the advantage of having extra time, right? So I don't have a lot of pressing matters on my mind right now. So the point is that we use the kairos of the moment to leverage the benefits for whatever it is that we're doing, whether it's actually producing work as in writing or drawing or creating a business proposition, whether it's doing something for others as in using the flow of the moment to take best advantage of creating the best, most well-being in people around us. For example, here in Makloganj, I have been volunteering as an English teacher. I've been working for a few years as an English teacher, and now here's some Tibetan refugees who are eager to learn. And I think, wow, it's amazing that I have this opportunity to share this skill that I've developed over years to help people who really are passionate about learning. So there's the kairos of the moment that I can help take advantage of leveraging the most possible learning in this environment. At the same time, I can use the kairos of the moment to leverage my own learning in the series of yoga, because I can have this time for one, and then I have access to teachers who are profoundly excellent and masterful. And if we can then put that last sort of edge on it where we can drop into the zone like VJ can, just at the drop of a hat whenever he wants to, because he's developed that ability over years and years of practice, then we're basically going to put ourselves in a position to be as efficient, as productive, and as capable as human beings as we are. This is really what we're talking about if we're talking about moving to the upper limits of our potential, to live life in not necessarily a constant state of peak performance. That would just be exhausting. I don't even know if that would be healthy. And it wouldn't even be a peak performance if it was always the same, right? To have peaks, you need troughs, so you need some ups and downs. But the ability that, hey, now's the time for a peak. I would be really helpful if I could be in a peak state right now. And here is a way, through practice, that I can elevate myself to that state when I need it, to rise to the occasion, right? Be the best version of myself when I really need to take that challenge head on. We talked about that a couple days ago, when those challenges come, am I going to be in a bad state of mind? And if I am in a kind of a crummy state of mind, then I see this challenge and it's going to just maybe crush me. Oh, I feel like the weight of the world's on my shoulders. There's nothing I could possibly do to fix this. But if I see that challenge and I go, wow, it's tough. I got to take this on full-minded, with full presence, with full awareness, in a peak state, and I can sort of elevate myself to that state of mind where I'm going to have ultimate clarity, be at the peak of my ability to creatively solve problems and understand, see the most variables as they come in, so that I can understand with awareness how everything is kind of contributing to the situation as I see it. Then, obviously, I'm going to be in a position to live a life where I can have the great benefits, have great well-being, contribute to my own well-being, have so much abundance that I can then contribute to the well-being of others around me. And I think all of us basically can can attain this state of self-sufficiency, to the point of abundance, to the point of where we can contribute to the well-being of other people. And these states, mindfulness, being able to get into the zone, and a number of techniques that allow us to take full advantage of the kairos of the moment and actively doing it, simply taking action, doing the thing that we need to do when we need to do it, or even when we don't need to do it, so that we're practiced and refined and ready to have those skills just to be able to draw them out of the bag whenever we need them. Then a world full of people who are capable like this is going to be a world full of people who are contributing to the well-being of the whole, to the well-being of the future generations, to the well-being of not only the humans and my own in-group and my own country and my own family, but also to the well-being of people who I don't even know yet, to the well-being of people and animals and the biosphere that doesn't even exist yet, that's going to exist in years from now. This is a bit of a lofty goal to want to contribute to such a sphere that's beyond the present moment, beyond ourselves, and maybe deep into the future. But the point is that we can do it. It takes a little work, and I think that work is going to be some of the most fulfilling things that we can ever do in this life, because the greatest satisfactions we get are when we really do something well, and it's not only for ourselves, but we know that it actively will contribute to the well-being of other people. And if people actually literally actively appreciate that, that's of course comes straight back to us. But it doesn't even matter really if you do something that you really know is going to be beneficial to others. It doesn't really matter. Like, the acknowledgement is kind of a secondary thing. It's more about the not knowing that you just did the correct thing because it was correct. You did the better thing because it was better, and that was sufficient. It is the ends. It's not, you don't do it for something else. You do it because it's the greatest thing that you can move towards, and that is, for me, just, I think the highest goals that we could really shoot for. If you're interested in these topics, I would thank you for joining me, and I would encourage you to click subscribe below. In particular, there's 3 ebooks available at precisionprinciple.com that talk about all of these topics in more depth. The game is going to be a tool to help you get into the present moment at any given time, to help you get back into the zone whenever you need it. 7 Habits of a Life of Thriving are going to give you 7 different places that you can practice this sort of mindfulness and customize it to your own interests and endeavors. And then 12 strategies to up your game, 12 strategies to increase your productivity and creativity are going to have pretty much 12 strategies you can apply to those 7 habits. And if you can do all those while being mindfully and playing the game at all times, just always kind of being in that zone, if that doesn't help accelerate your development towards efficiency, growth, happiness, and well-being, then I'm not sure what could. So I encourage you to check it out. In the meantime, thank you for joining me. Keep learning, keep growing, and have a great day.